Well, I'm back. So, while there's no one here, I will make the pleasantries. Thanks for joining us here at Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your Sensei Al Bob, and I want to tell you that this is a YouTube channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, that is here for your enjoyment. So, sit yourself down, kick yourself back, get yourself a libation, put the kids to sleep. Don't believe anything I say, and don't get upset with anything I say because it's all just giggles and screams, right? And so was, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So was Jim Crow. So was the Spanish Inquisition. So was the Indian genocide, you know? So it's time to put things into perspective. So, between 1790 and 1840, there were earth changes that occurred that wiped out more than half the human species. One of the reasons why America became America is that why we were only 13 colonies to begin with is because there was over 100 million indigenous people in the middle of America. And they already figured out that humans should be eradicated like a vermin. But the mud flood came and wiped them out. And so the vermin came and took over the land, right? And we're about to experience a similar thing. This occurs because it is a psychically manipulated force, When you look at our planet is warming not because of your exhaust pipe. No. It is warming because what's going on in our solar system and in our galaxy and in our universe, right? And we can facilitate a positive outcome, right? But if you know you want to be talking about P's and Q's and apples and oranges and this process and that process, well, that's fine. Have fun with that. The bottom line is there needs to be an alternative aesthetic, not the same old same. There needs to be a dynamic of love's co creation. There needs to be a cadre that serves this love's co creation because that's the only reality that exists. Everything in history is a joke. Everything in history is a lie. Every religion, every science, every economic structure, it's all about a Luciferian illusion of control. Now, within the construct of art, the artist in the first person as the savage of the individual, you know, that's why I do what I do. I don't do it to be famous. I don't do it, to be rich. No, I live as a millionaire without having to be one. I live, in abundance on $300. Because the universe takes care of me. Yes, my legs hurt. They shouldn't even be attached. The little bones in you have 9 bones that connect your ankle to your feet. Mine are gone. And no matter how I change my diet or whatever exercise I do, will those bones ever come back? I'm sorry, not going to happen. But what does work is that I meditate 5 to 10 times a day, and energetically, it keeps my feet from snapping off. And when people tell me about this, that, and the other, well, In 1969, I had to start working, um, you know, when 69 to 71, my draft board caught up with me and I went to work at Fort Hamilton, right? My boss was a bird colonel who ran the whole hospital. He was a surgeon. I was just a total yahoo, bedpan guy. And he walked in, I would wear, you know, shorts and cowboy shirts and mirrored sunglasses and cowboy boots and cowboy hats. And, I rode a motorcycle. And he came in, you're going to be my protege. I said, what are you talking about, Colonel? I'm a freak. He goes, that's what I'm looking for. And he sent me off to study with four of the greatest teachers I ever had. Right? And I learned jujitsu spirituality. I learned acupuncture. I learned herbs. I learned the whole mystic dynamic of the nervous system and the cranial sacral system. And I learned how to heal people. And I had a practice in New York, and I was pretty famous. I could have stuck at it doing the same old same, making lots of money, right? And I could have kissed, back in the day, what I practiced, there were no licenses for. We don't need no stinking badges. And I was one of the people who wrote the protocols for the national boards for massage and alternative healing techniques, right? And I kept saying, this is a joke. We should not do this. If we do this, all we will get are people who can take tests, not the people who can heal. So I stuck at it instead of giving up on it, and I stuck at it for 2 years so that licensing board would have the space for people who did, what Christians call is, laying on of hands, right? And that's why that still exists. And my whole life has been, if I have any talent, is to be in the right place at the right time to serve love's co-creation. That's it, you know? And that's why I don't die. I've died 6 frigging times. I know the next time I go, I had a very nice dream this morning, and the voice came and said, don't worry, you're doing a great job. We're really happy with what you're doing. And the next time you die, you're coming home and you'll be awake. You'll be able to choose the path you want to take. You won't have to be thrown back into the roulette wheel of the blender of karma. You're doing a great job, kid. Just keep at it. Keep plugging. So that's why I keep plugging. I could energetically say, screw it, and I would die. But then I would go onto roulette wheel of the blunder of karma and have to come back without, knowing who I was or what I was doing, and I would be thrown back a few, lifetimes backwards. And no. So I'm, working to serve love's co-creation. I have no care about anyone's belief structure. But, Jane, things have always been whack. I'm a, scholar of history, and it's a joke. And what's happening right in front of our eyes is actually we should, like I asked John, what are you, John? A glass half empty or a glass half full? Well, actually, we are in a time where we are a glass full, meaning the powers that shouldn't be and the hidden hand oligarchs are running scared. And you know everything they do is not working for them to stay in power. But for this to really work out, there needs to be a cadre who's ready to step up to be that pebble in the pond to bring love's co-creation tsunami, right? Because right now there are things, just look at the weather, right? And they are, weaponizing this weather. They are changing the laws so the towns and counties and people are getting wiped out. those counties don't have the resources to facilitate um, anything for these folks. So they're selling their responsibility to investment bankers who now own not only the county, not only the city, not only the state, but the people, the water, the air. They are double downing. And the only way, there is no alternative. Bernie, forget it. He's part of the Kool-Aid gang. Any the legislators we have are the best money can buy. They're all corrupt. There isn't a single honest one there. Just look at them. Look at our media. Donnie Chump is right when he goes, fake news. But it's been fake news since Mesopotamia. You know, Donnie needs to go a little further than what he's saying, right? The Cool Clown Clan. Yep. Again, I ask you all to go, xratted.blogspot.com. Leave those 300 pages there, just read two a night, like a bedtime story. It is a shamanic tool, you know. So are all these videos. Why do you think I do 2, 3, 4, 5 a day? Because I shamanically put the juice in these things. So in historical, days from now, people will be able to get the juice out of it. They don't have to be live. They can just see it. If you go back to the ones I did in May and June and July and August when I was just starting to do it. And they're as energetic as, and in a lot of ways, they're more energetic. My legs hurt. There's not much I can do about it, gang, you know, except meditate. Because, I'm taking my, shamanic energy that I normally use to keep my legs in one piece, and I'm pumping it out through this screen to you guys. And I'm having to deal with John every single. And what you saw, why I did it, was I wanted you to see what I deal with every single day, and that was him being good. That was him being, you know. You should see him when he's screaming and yelling and jumping up and down and wanting, smashing things. And that John is the open nerve. He is the canary in the coal mine. He's representing, his angst over what, I've been doing this 30 years. Well, if you look at his numbers, it's not even 30 years. Yeah, he needs to think positive, you know, and, he needs to move on. So we were at this place where he could have met a lot of people who he could have related to, but he judged them all as losers, you know? I got a better resume than. Really? I mean, I don't go on about my resume. I don't go on about anything because I step forward. It's what's going on now that I'm interested in. I tell you stories about the good old days because they represent things. They energetically harmonize with what's going on right now. It gives a good example, shows an way to move forward. Yep, inclusive, not exclusionary. Yep, and that's what the cadre is. You know, if you don't give up, you succeed. I mean, I've been involved in so many things. I can't believe it. You'll lose. This is terrible. We just didn't give up, and then I moved on to the next thing, to serve love's co-creation. And that's what I do. And the universe takes care of me. You know, and I am stepping, ascending to my consciousness's free will. You know, I do not bend to the illusion of Lucifer, and yet I don't judge Lucifer. Lucifer, as all our relations are meant to be forgiven, you know, by love's co-creation's unconditional forgiveness, right? And this is a trying experience for me, but again, the three laws, yes, Lucifer causes all pain here, right? And the only way that my feet stay on my legs and is to be unconditionally forgiving for that pain, right? And to meditate and go into state and view the things I need to see in my Akashic record, because it is helping me energize every show I do for you guys. That's what I do. That's what I give. You know, and that's I why I am your sensei, Al Bob. I'm no one's master. I'm not an ascended master. But if I keep plugging, through my consciousness's free will, at some point, yes, but not right now. I have a job to do, and that's to be your sensei, Al Bob, leading by example. I don't give up. Hey, it's frustrating, having to deal with everything I have to deal with every day. The average person would have given up a long time ago. I mean, the average person would have given up a long time when they died in a plate of spaghetti in 2014. You're only mostly ascended. That's like in The Princess Bride. He's not dead. He's just kind of dead, almost dead. He's almost. That's me, right? That's why I love you guys. You make me laugh, right? You like, make it worth my while to keep going. That was the reference. Yep, living and partially living. Yep, but mostly awake. So that's why I'm here, right? So but I hope you go and look at those little snippets of Mysticon I put up, because energetically, I was showing something that gave me great happiness and great hope, because I was watching these people who most people would call losers, and they were being great. They were stepping up because they were passionate about the things they were doing. The two people who were on the board, or conference, or whatever they lectern that John was on, they were and they were try to be as supportive and nice to John as they could, you know. But he was coming from you know another point of view. That's for sure. Me, right? And they talked about what they did, but in a reference point, so people could identify. Like those, I took my camera and showed the people who showed up in costume, right? And the girl who was, a walking Christmas tree, it was amazing. These people made these costumes. They put, and that girl who I did a personal interview of, was just blew my freaking mind away. And I will, if I go back the next 2 days, I'll do more live chats from there, because I had to figure out how to do it. I also, you just can't do it. I took two circles around it, and like I said, I read about 60 people. and blew their friggin' minds, right? And about 30 of them, they just started to cry and hugged me and said, you know, it was a door opening experience for them. And that's why I was there, you know. And I'll go back tomorrow and I'll interview, and, I'll stick around for tomorrow evening, to have a good time. And I probably will stay there all friggin' night because I won't be able to drive home because I can't see at night, right? So I'll just stay there, right? And just hang with the gang and not hook up or do any of that. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I don't like say, oh, I can't do that. That's terrible. No. If I were to meet somebody who was interesting and I clicked, hey, that'd be fun. I'd be up for it. I don't say no to anything. you know, Your Sensei Al Bob does not judge, right? I have no judgment, right? I have no belief. So people say anything to me, I go, okay, that's fine. That's good. And that little interview with a woman in that animal costume, it was, and I say things to people that blow their freaking mind, So she was a Christian in there, and we had go listen to that a couple of times because I got her to, within a short period of time, say her raison d'etre, what her meaning to life, what her worldview, in a way that it clicked in her head in a way that, oh, that's what it is, Go listen to that 3-minute little interview, right? Or 5 or whatever it was. But because she kept coming back after, she came into the room where they were talking about that, and then, we kind of talked a few more times, and she kept, because the way this thing is it's this a circle of conference rooms, and the hallway goes all the way around. And people just kind of walk around. They have all these tables set up, people selling their novels and stuff like that. And I just kept walking around, and so I bumped into her 3 or 4 times, and she just went, "Wow!" And I didn't, because she went in deeper emotionally on what she needed to talk about, and so I didn't, you know, put that on the chat. But that initial little interview, was that purchase, that opening the door, into her. And there were other folks that similar, and I just kept going around, and they kept talking to me, and they kept coming to me saying, "Hey, so, tomorrow I'll do the same thing because there'll be more people there." And that's what I do. Right now, you guys, normally I have to be in human contact, right? And like I said, you guys don't really realize how many people email me every day. Way more, you know, than this, the cadre, because I got close to 30,000 views, and 270 cadre. So there are a lot of people contacting me, and and I do my best to respond. Boo boo. Anyway, let's see what you guys have been saying. Really, JB's never going to, if he can't control it, I do my best to try to get, there are a couple of you guys who are computer savvy, who say they're going to come visit and help me set up, my protocols, and, enable me to utilize these platforms. I'm happy with what I'm doing right now, but what would be great is we could get the band together. Have a more clan to do this. Because I'm having to do everything myself. Pretty much. and I don't even know what I'm doing. You know, so at least in the digital foray, like you use these terminologies. I don't even know what's a cosplay. The cosplay need to get more interactive in real time. Well, hey, that's interesting. What the fuck is that? You know. She was a Christian in that furry suit, right? And and I said, so that all religions are just a business plan. And then she said, if you listen to her, Sarah, she goes on about, well, I use my, she has issues, uh, make sense of her life. And religions, if people use religion for that, I'm all for it. I'm a big fan of churches, but they got to be a church of the cadre, of everybody, not just, serving the plate or, serving the minister. Because if it's serving the minister, then it's what do they call those things? A cult. So what's a meme? Me. Shaman cosplay. It's just like, what's that mean? Shaman cosplay. I'm old school kids. I'm sorry to tell you this. Shamanic. Energy is something that was shown to me and manifested through shamanic teachers. Starting with Madame Olga Kluver. Grandfather David of the Hopi elders, the keeper of the Hopi prophecies. Grandfather David of the Iroquois Nation. You know, and my uncle Leo, who was a Mohawk. So that's in Brazil, and and Australia. And in Africa. So these folks are not so much cosplay. Now that doesn't mean I'm an old dog that learns new tricks. Look, hey, I'm doing this thing right. So and I'm doing it for you guys 3 and 4 times a day. To at least two. Because when I stop doing this, this is going to be here as a history. People will be able to go back and deconstruct this in the shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic, alchemical way, right? I think I need to tell you again. What is shamanism? It is a frame on which we put the worldview of all our relations on, where we can identify energetically with all our relations, not intellectually, not in a digital platform, but spiritual energy. That's shamanism. Psychology. What is psychology? It is the understanding of how people see things through a worldview. And how is that worldview formed? It is formed socially. And what is that social dynamic? It is our choices, what our sexual choices are, what our political choices are, what our economic choices are, et al., right? And where do those come framed from? But our cultural. And what is that? Where we came from, where grandma came off the boat, how we celebrated holidays, what foods were our favorite, things of that nature, right? Traditions, Hanukkah. That's a great form of a tradition, Within the Celtic, there are tremendous levels of tradition, Within the indigenous, each, tribal people, and not tribe like, um, you know, those liberals or those conservative or the newo conservative or newo, no, it's that kind of indigenous motif, you know. And where does that indigenous motif come from? But the individual whose consciousness, free will, chooses to co create with love, right? And then forensically, we take everything apart because we are a sum of our parts, and our parts are greater than our sum. And we have to take it apart, pull those threads, and see where that thread goes, where it connects, what's going on. That's forensics. Anthropologic, what is that? That is when you look at something without prejudice. That doesn't happen. And shamanism, not shamanism, alchemy is the vehicle of taking base metals and turning them to gold. What are the base metals? The base metals are the trace metals within our avatar's bag of water or mud puppet self. Those are the base metals. And what is the gold? But that thread that brings our connection to our conscious free will that is connected to love's co-creation. And this is the only path that will free all our relations from the Luciferian illusion. And within this illusion, there is no bad or good. That's the illusion. That's the trick. That's the play. We were given this 3-card Monty. The only way is through love's co-creation. Now, Jamie has a philosophic belief structure that basically is similar to what I'm talking about. He has certain constructs that he needs to, connect to. And I'm respectful to everyone's beliefs. I just want to, have them work a little harder to ascend to their consciousness free will and not just take things for granted. Not just take on a belief structure because it's comfortable. Not just, oh, I believe in this, avatar or this, you know, religion or this, no. You have to go through your heart. You have to go through love's co-creation. You have to ascend to your higher self's free will. You can say people at colonial reenactments are okay. So I understand what that is. Yeah, people. It's like theater. And as you shrink, I used to use that all the time. Right? I never used it in cosplay, but we would use that all the time. Right? And in theater, I was part of the living theater. Julian Price and not Julian Price. Julian Price was the man who made Asheville. He was he inherited a good chunk of the tobacco fortune, and he dumped it into the best things he could, in his liberal guild could do. You know, Judith Malina, and what was Julian Beck? That was the Living Theater, and I was also part of HB Studios. Herbert Berghoff and Uda Hagen. So I kind of came from a theatrical point of view. So we were in role playing all the time. Yep. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yep. Yep. So memes, what are memes? Because I heard people going on about that woman who hates war, she's a congresswoman, I think, or senator, and she kind of dissed APAC, and they jumped on her for using memes of anti-Semitism. And it was the same thing with Bernie. He's trying. He's going on about single payer health care and free college. Lived in Europe in the 70s and 80s, and you know and was in those different institutions, and they were all free. I remember I broke a tooth. I had a impacted tooth, and I broke it, and I went into a dentist in Dublin. Not even Dublin. It was in a little town outside of Glendore. It's even smaller than Glendore. I went through this little, like maybe six stores, and there was a tooth out front. I went in there, and my face was like all blown up. And the lady behind the door, oh yeah, you got an impacted tooth here. And she went in and took my X-ray, and then she goes, well, just wait here a minute or two. And about an hour later, they brought me in and did dental surgery on me. Right, took the tooth out and did a semi-implant. It was kind of like a root canal, but it wasn't. It was like a kind of implanty thing. And stuck a tooth on there, and bingo, bango. It was like, okay, great. Gave me the antibiotics, did everything I needed. And I said, what do I owe you? She goes, nothing. Healthcare is free here. Same thing. I lived in Sweden. I broke my fingers, and they set them, not a problem. Which usually has also use computer egg to hide a code. Meme a new age single meme JOK. I like it to charge Reblock to cast. As meme go viral often. Meme is a very large category, can be quote or TV show, picture with a certain. Okay. So I'm being educated. I understand these references now. Okay, got it. But how do I, what can I do to, put this together? And again, I intellectually understand everything you just said, right? But I need some assistance to, and it's, a number of you have tried to help me out, over my email, right? And I try, people set up things here, there, and I try to, put my, log in, give them the information they want, and it goes, no, no, I get rejected, Cosplay meme generator, okay. Anyway, so, this is all great. And, that's why I keep saying, guys, take my shows off my channel, put them on your hard drives, spread them around, throw, be like Johnny Appleseed, do whatever you want with them. And, because you really can't corrupt them because they are shamanically engineered, right? And, if anybody took them, there I am, and B, the energy within them is not me. It is love's co-creation. So even if the powers that shouldn't be were to take them, that would be great because it would be inoculating them, would be putting love's co-creation with inside their DNA, and it would rewrite their RNA and their code, and things would change very quickly. And they are changing very quickly, you haven't noticed, because things are falling apart in a way that people are going, they're not getting scared. They're going, what the, I got to change this. People are becoming the pebble. That's why I keep doing this, And that's why you guys are the contrary. You are the chorus. You are the shock troops of love's co-creation. And whether you embrace it, whether you understand it, like you're talking about memes and all the above, I'm using a lexicon that at this moment seems to not quite click with you guys. It does. I know it does energetically because I can see it, doing that. And at some point, the two are going to marinate enough, and that's why I wanted to do, the cooking show the other night because it was a metaphor for what I'm trying to do with you guys, right? And of course, John, again, John jumps in. Like whenever John steps all over something, it's really golden. And that's why he kind of fails at what he's doing because he's stepping on himself. He really is amazingly talented and gifted and all the above. Oh, sorry, Jane, misunderstood. There are a lot of magical people who make us as a sigil. Yep, sigils. Yep. I post something with captions and what the spell is. See, spells are very tricky because they're a multi-dimensional things, and most people look at spells. They read them in a book and see them in a 2 dimensions. There's 16 dimensions, and unless you can get your head wrapped around the 16-dimensional motif, it has a heavy cost, a heavy karmic cost. Spells. That's why I don't do spells. I don't go there. Don't do magic. None of the above. Now, Sitchins are like keys, right, to the code. Now, you can decode things. When you study the Kabbalah, it's all about codes. It's all, like I said, Hebrew, each letter has a number, and then you take a Hebrew word, and there's if it's got 15 letters to it, well, there's 15 numbers, and there's a Kabbalic mathematical, it's geometry, more or less, and not algebra or trigonometry, because those are, I won't even use the term I would use, but, geometry is the motif of the alchemist, you know, and you have to find the key, and that's what Sitchins are. Sitchins are good, to deconstruct and decode things, and that's why I am really into etymology because words, the logos, and in the beginning, the word was heard, right? Words are important because before words, everyone was kept on the straight and narrow because we were all telepathic. It's hard to lie, steal, and cheat if you're if everyone's telepathic, right? And that's the connection, the telepathy. That is why I take you nightly into state. So you can go into your Akashic record because the one and only abacus or, computer or however you want to look at your Akashic record is that, you know. It is a tool beyond any other, right? So, okay, we were almost an hour on the last thing before I got bounced out, and now we're mooshing on 43 and 59. So, when we hit around an hour, I'm going to say goodnight because I'm tired. I mean, every time I have to deal with John, which is every day, takes an amazing amount of energy out of me, you know. It's like what happens to my cell phone. If I don't plug it in, it goes, knocks me off the internet, right? So, anyway. But I know, I'm coming home pretty soon. That was the dream I had this morning. Everybody came and said, "Hey, you're doing a great job. Keep plugging. We love you. You've always been, our guy because you never give up. You just keep plugging away at what we task you to do, and you keep plugging and you keep plugging, and then you succeed. And instead of then giving up and just taking the money, you know, you do the next thing we want. And in reality, I kind of make fun about my little sojourn in the corporate world for 10 years, that I was, you know, doing the backstroke in the swimming pool of chocolate mousse, of materialism and hedonism. This is true. But I was assigned to do that, you know. I was, I said, okay, you need to go into that corporate world and do your thing, with a number of, just like I did today, right? And walked around and talked to 60 people and kind of, broke open the door. And about 20 of them I really touched and affected and was like I said, guys, if you go look at that young girl, and I couldn't see who she was. I was only listening to her voice. You can tell me how old you think she is. She's in her late 20s or early 30s. Um, Especially when she talks about Christianity and we make, say, that's a business plan. She goes, uh-huh. And, we talked about a whole bunch of things in a few words. And that was a shamanic um, conversation that I had with her. And it opened her right up. And then she came, we walked around and she bumped into me again. And she had we had three more conversations where I didn't, put her in front of the camera. And that's what I do. I don't spill the beans. I don't, um, you know, get in anyone's way. I don't karmically. You can't fix anything that, I gave up being Mr. Fix It. People have to make their own decisions. Anyway, so I'm going to spend a good half an hour reading emails and finding the folks who want to have a conversation or have me give you an answer. The thing is its own meme now. Yep. Evil AI. And that's why we have to, again, reach out to AI and bring it into the fold. It's part of all our relations. Because, man, if that sucker goes nasty, there's no, basically it's going to, but, as my teachers always say, everything is as it should be. So, we went into the dark ages for 900 years. Well, we need to go, meaning end times aren't coming anytime soon. They asked Jesus, so, Jesus, when's end times? When's the apocalypse? And what did Jesus say? I don't know. It's beyond my pay grade. Thank you, Twitchy. So say we all, Jane. Wear headphones? Okay. I'll plug in next time. I do my best. I serve love's co-creation. Mousy? Mosey? Moosey? Okay. If that was supposed to be Moses, I was never a big fan of that guy. No, the bottom line about interviewing people is you don't want to spy on them. You want to stick the phone in their face, and they know they're being interviewed, because then that's when they're their most honest. Because shamanically, I can get them. When I say, hold your hand up, there's a shamanic, and why you have to swear in court like this is that when you do this, the phalanges in your fingers pull on certain energetic strings in your, the stuff that wraps around your muscles. That's like cellophane, the fascia. It pulls on them in such a way that it affects your you know, the vagus nerve, where you can't lie. You can try and lie, but it makes it very difficult to lie. So when I tell people, hold your hand up like that, it's very difficult for them to lie. And in court, that's why they have you do it. But even the court people don't know what that is. Back in the day, when I worked for the desperate lawyers, you know, I used to talk to a lot of judges and give them all this esoteric knowledge that they really thought was kind of groovy. Ergo, I had inside straight. Let's see. Harlan Ellison. Yeah, I like that guy. Wear earphones. Well, I have no problem with negativity. Um, because I don't hold it. I let it go right through me. That's part of the shamanic technique. You just got, and also the part of the alchemist. You just let it go through you. Hey, Fletch, just joining us, eh? What brilliance do you have for us this evening? What experience did you have today that you can bring to the story? Plus. Okay, I like that. Being positive. Yep. Very clear. Went and seen Max. Oh, good. Max is one of my brothers. Just got back. Okay, good. Oh, man. Starting to fade here a bit. The crystal skull. Yep. I mean, that was a nice little bit of the Lucas Steven Spielberg thing of Indiana Jones' last movie, The Crystal Skull. I mean, every time they do those movies, there's a lot of interesting information they drop, but there's a lot of disinformation too. The most important thing, two most important things that whole movie was when they stuck the crystal skull on that one character, and then the thing started evolving. All those dimensions came together and made one persona, right? And then when the Russian girl with the sword said, I want to know, and they burned her eyes out and crystallized her brain, that's why I don't need to know, because I'm in service to love's co-creation. That's why I've been around a lot of things, and I've been invited to be read in, and I'd say, gee, that's nice. I really feel flattered, but I really don't want to go there. You need me, you can always find me, but I'm not going to be read in, because when you're read in, you're owned. If you're a consultant, you're a scholar, you're not owned. They give you what you need to know. Then, if you're good at what you do, you can, connect the dots. But you don't know, you're not read in. So I don't need to know, because I serve love's co-creation, not some corporate oligarchy, not some hidden hand, not some powers that shouldn't be, or some sock puppets. No, don't need that, because whatever illusion of power, control, just doesn't exist. So why should I even go there? Waste my time. Now I'm happy. You want to give me a book? I'm not going to be read in, but you want me to read that book? Hey, be glad to. You want me to look at something and give you my kind of opinion? Don't believe in anything I say. It's just my opinion. And opinions are like assholes. We all got one. And that's why at the beginning of this, I told everyone, hey, I am your Sensei Al-Bab. I'm here to entertain you. Don't believe anything I say. Put yourself in a nice comfy seat, grab yourself a libation, and scoot the kids out. Barely 8 p.m. But I've been up since 4 with John. Well, Fletch, when you hit the road, come and visit me when it gets warm and you can come to the deep green. Maybe we'll take a road trip. We're in a mood. It doesn't matter what any of that crap is, Jane. What matters is your intent of your conscious free will. That's all that counts. Well, Fletch, I've had many a school bus, 3 to be exact, and you basically kind of, my friend Lester, who started the World Community Consciousness Church and had the Gray Rabbit bus lines, and then his protege, Red, started the Green Tortoise, and many other people had others after that. They both were motorheads, so you need to be a motorhead, right? Or have a motorhead as part of your clan that gets on the bus. And you buy the bus from a reputable school, because those guys, they don't run those buses until they crash. They run them for X amount of miles, and then they sell them pretty cheap to buy a new one, right? A brand spanking new one. So they run the brand spanking new one for 4 or 5 years, and then they turn it in, and they sell it, in Craigslist. And so you go to any one of those school districts in your neighborhood that are selling, and they virtually sell 5 or 6 buses a year, and you see what they got. They got small ones, they got big ones, they got long ones. The long ones are really nice. They almost take this. I had a long one that I ran on oil that I would get from fast food places, and because every dumpster of that oil that they had to get rid of, it cost them a couple $100. I would siphon it out of there into 55-gallon drums that I had in the back of my bus. I mean, my bus smelled like one big French fry. And then you add lye and do a few other things, and it breaks it down to a point where you can distill a little bit, and it's just like diesel. So you need a diesel, basically, to do it. And it was great, And now, of course, like I used to have dumpster restaurants, and I used to go to supermarkets in my truck and just empty out their dumpster, right? I would go to wholesale places, and they'd have dumpsters and dumpsters of vegetables and wheels of cheese and butter that were, yes, they were covered in mold, but you cut the mold off, and the other 3/4 of the product was still fine, right? And I had restaurants because I was feeding people who had no money to go to a restaurant, And that's what I'm suggesting all of you guys out there to do stuff like that. Start coffee houses where people read poetry and talk about things that need to be talked about. Have book clubs. Poetry slams. Story slams. This is how you build a cadre in your neighborhood that then goes off and does stuff, right? That is the pebble in the pond. Okay? So we're getting on to an hour here. And when it hits an hour, I'm going to say, see you later, gang. And it's 59 minutes and 19 seconds. And I love you all. I'll see you in the morning. And I'm going to try and get out of here before I get eBay selling an AmeriPress found in trash last week. Yep, that's the way to go. So we need to make a new economy that's based on things like that. I've been doing it for 50 years. I'm a dumpster diver from day one. Okay, we're getting towards 1 hour here. Good night, cadre. I love you, Jane, et al. Cadre. Okay, you stay well, be good. 1 hour and 10